Recording, golden. All right. So we got a new mic set up here going on. We have the Audio Technica lav mic plugged into the Rode wireless lav mic, and we'll see how it goes. Trying to figure it out. It looks to be working good. Excuse my hair. We had sunglasses on the head. We'll fix it. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today I am going to go ahead and, as requested, do a mining farm update tour. We haven't really added a ton of equipment, just a little bit, and I'll go over all of the basically stuff that we have going on in the farm as it sits. We finally do have internet. That's been a blessing. And then of course we have all of this equipment here, and we've made some changes. So behind me, as you guys can probably see, we have broken down the shelves over here, and we have 4 shelves that I got from Home Depot that are like wire rack shelves, and typically they come stacked in like a 4 set and they go all the way up. You may have seen it before. Basically, I took them apart and split them into half to get the rigs lower to the ground. Now, as some of you may know, I may be moving here soon to a new location. And because of that, I want to make sure that I'm not upgrading ventilation like I need to before the summer in case I do move. If we do end up doing ventilation here, we will have exhaust in the ceiling essentially up there, and it'll be pulling the hot air out. The lower the rigs can be to the ground, the cooler they're going to stay, and it has helped significantly, up to 500 mega hash improvement across the board actually, which is pretty impressive. We still have this shelf over here, and I'm going to buy a few more of these racks here and move everything off of that shelf. And then this big one will either be used for inventory or something along those lines. So let's go ahead and start with the power setup. We have 200 amp panel coming in, and everything is 240 volts. Let's go ahead and take a look. So here's the panel, as you can see. And if we go down it, we have our open bay plugs, blah, 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 keep coming down. And here is 240, 240, 240. So as you can see here, we have essentially 60 amps on this 240 setup. Then we have another 30 amps, another spot for another 30 amps. And then down here, we have 240 on the twist lock. These are our 30 amps. So as you can see here, 30 amp. So up here basically is a 50 amp plug. We'll go over it when we go onto the wall. And then of course we still have another 240 here on a 50 amp, another 240 on 50 amp. And then these are in the open bay. We'll go over everything that we have available to us. And then 240 volt, 30 amps. So 3 240 volt, 30 amps. And what you'll see is they're here. They're L6 30P plugs. And then those go into these PDUs here, these trip lights. And the trip lights essentially have banks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 amp, 240 volt banks. So you would take the 8 amp and then multiply that times the 240 for that. And then the C19 plugs, each one is 12 amps. And we do run into some issues there, and we'll kind of talk about that. So there's one 30 amp L6 30P. And then if we come over here, this is a 50 amp plug. I did have to do a conversion, and this is for what we are upgrading to the Asics on right now. I do need to either get the right PDU, but right now this is working. We only have one Asic plugged into it at this point. This goes to a PDU from Asic mining panels. and I'll have a link down in the description, non-affiliate, and essentially they are a 50 amp PDU with 4 C19 plugs coming off of it for the Asic miners that we are starting to install. Then we have this 240 L630P plug, and then if we come over to here, we have 2 more of the trip light setups, and of course another L630P plug going to the trip light over here. And then we have the final L630P plug over here, right here. Now, for networking, let's go ahead and go over that and get you guys all sorted. And essentially what we have is, up here we have our internet coming in, and I'll have to blink anything out that has any private information. And this is coming from Spectrum. We do need our Wi-Fi backup still. They have not installed it yet. So we have essentially business Wi-Fi coming in, and then that runs to, over here is a Cisco switch, 24 port Cisco 2960S, and that runs pretty much everything on this rack here. And then we ran one more cable on the floor here. I will be running it along the wall there over to our HP 48 port switch, and this one's a beast. It's my favorite switch by far. And then those are both basically just in dummy mode right now, hooked up to all the rigs. So as you guys probably are excited to talk about, we're going to talk about the mining rigs themselves. Total, we have 113 GPUs online at the moment. Let's just go through them. So here's the first rig. These are all going to essentially be primarily 1660 Supers with a couple 1660 Ti's, and on the end here there's a 3060 Ti non-light hash rate that is running through this power supply, which isn't fantastic or anything like that, and a BioStar TB250 motherboard, or TB85 motherboard, excuse me, that handles all 6 of those GPUs. Down here we have 5700 XTs in Rosewill cases, 2 setups, and we have an Antec Platinum Series power supply in that one back there. Let's see if it'll focus in. There we go. And that one has the Asus Prime Z270 motherboard in it. And then we have this one over here with basically one of those 1600 watt Bitcoin power supplies. And that is running the H81 Pro BTC from ASRock. Down here we have 12 5700 XTs in an Octominer case. And so that's basically exactly how it comes from Octominer, with the 3 1200 watt HP power supplies powering all of that. And it is just enough cables to fit basically those GPUs, and they stay nice and cool and work well. Over here we have 12 1660 Supers, and they are hooked up to an ASRock H110 Pro BTC motherboard. We have 2 power supplies in this rig, a little overkill, but that's okay. Then up here we have our 3080 3070 rig, and essentially we have 3 3080s, 3 3070s, and that is plugged through one of the mining rig power supplies, 2000 watt, hooked up to a Asus Call of Duty Black Ops Special Edition motherboard right there. And essentially also in there is a nice 8700K, which is pretty funny. And this one is actually running off of a SSD for HiveOS. Usually I run off of just USB drives, against the guiding principles of HiveOS though, but it's fine. This is the light hash rate rig, and my goal for this rig is ultimately to take it apart and upgrade it, but to basically a larger frame that we can, the goal is to have one of every light hash rate GPU. Right now we have a 3080 Ti, we have a, I believe a 3060 revision 1, a 3060 revision 2, we have a 3050, and then we have the 3070 Ti. And then that is all hooked up to a plethora of power supplies. Unfortunately, this rig is not together all the way. We had a power supply fail on it. And then that is hooked up to which motherboard? I forgot on this one. Let's go ahead and go around. We'll take a look. This motherboard is, I have no idea. I think this is a Gigabyte BTC motherboard, and we have one more slot left on it. Down here is the 3070 rig. We've talked about this before. And this has 12 3070s on an H110 Pro BTC motherboard. We have a breakout board with a 2400 watt power supply, platinum rated on this one, and a Seasonic 1300 watt power supply. The original power supplies were blown up. That's part of the reason we got this rig so cheap during the bull run. Over here is the Big Daddy. Now I'm going to be linking to an Etsy account that supplies these little wire rack mounts, and he's sending me some more, so shout out there. Look for it in the links in the description. We have the 3090s here, and they're all hung. And the reason they're all hung up is because I'm getting much better airflow now, and we're able to maintain over 100 megahash on all 9 of these 3090s plugged into it as a BioStar motherboard. This is the TB360 or 350 BTC Pro, the 2.0. So we have 12 available there. If we want to add more, we have the EVGA 1600 watt power supply over there. And then over here we have one of those mining rig power supplies as well. Then down here we have the 5600 XT rig, 65600 XT rig with a 1000 watt EVGA power supply. And the motherboard in here, I believe, is an ASRock TB85 once again. The first revision, the BTC 81, H81, excuse me. So there we go. And that one, that's all the rigs on these half racks. So if we go over here, things get a little bit more interesting. And that's because it's a hodgepodge mix of stuff. So we have essentially a 5800X with a 2080 Ti in that one. We have a Threadripper 1950X with a 2080 Ti in that one. And those need to be basically combined and consolidated. Up here on the top, we have our mix of 5600 XTs and 6000 series GPUs. This is plugged into this has the 5600X Ryzen processor in it, and I forget the motherboard exactly on this one. It's an Asus Tough Gaming, and that one seemed to work just fine as well. Down here, this is the rig that's dying on me. It's 5700 XTs. This is just an open air frame to take all the ones you can see here. We lost a fan there. It's still running. We lost a fan there. It's not running. This GPU is not running at all. It's actually offline. And so lots of stuff needs to happen on this one because it does have an ASRock H110 Pro BTC motherboard in it with 2 Seagate 1300 watt power supplies. And it's just in really bad shape, unfortunately. Here's the Antminer. Well, we'll talk about ASICs afterwards. So this is my very first rig that we ever built. I had a coworker help me build the frame. This is a wood frame. You can probably find it on the channel. And we have 8 5700 XTs on here going through an ASRock H110 Pro BTC motherboard. And we have the parallel miner set up, as you can tell, for the power. And then finally, over here, the last GPU rig that we are running is an all 6000 series GPUs, primarily 6600s and 6600 XTs with a single 6800 on the end there, and a 6700 XT in here as well. And then on the bottom here, as you can see, we're running the H110 Pro BTC motherboard. We have one of the Bitcoin mining Amazon power supplies, and then over there we have that mining rig power supply, 2000 watt, and that one's been running pretty well. No issues there. So that's all the GPU rigs. Let's talk about ASICs. Over here we have an Antminer L3 Plus, merge mining both Dogecoin and Litecoin. You can check out the channel how-to guide for that. and it's still doing like pretty well as far as like making Dogecoin and Litecoin. And then down here we have a Z9 Mini. This is currently mining Pirate Chain on the Luxor mining pools. And the rest of our ASICs are way up here. We have, I don't know which one's which, but one of these is a library coin, mining library. One of these is a handshake box, which is mining handshake, reviews on the channel. And here's the Voss Coin Special Edition Dogecoin miner. And that pretty much covers the ASICs except for the big boy that we talked about earlier for the power on a C19 plug. This is the newest one, review coming to the channel. And it is a C16 Pro from Koi Miner, purchased through BT Miners. Check out the affiliate link down in the description for that. And like I said, it's plugged into this PDU. Make sure you take these PDUs apart and check the connections. They've been known to actually ship with faulty connections that can start fires. So do that. That's what I've been told. I checked mine. We seem to be all good. This is the monitor that rotates around for checking rigs. And that pretty much wraps it up. We do have our GPU dead / not deployed pile over here. We have 1063 gigs that are going to go on the network. We have some RX 580s. Some of them work, some of them do not work. We have a GTX 1066 gig that we need to revisit on. And then we have a broken 5700 XT. Essentially, I ordered fans, but the fans were wrong. This is my bin of stuff, not all organized. Tools, multimeters, water cooling parts when I used to do water cooling tools, and a hot glue gun. Down here we have our fan bin where fans go to die. And then down there we have just random cables, etc. Down here is pretty interesting. I'm going to be using some of these in servers and some of these in my home setup. And they are the Barracuda 2.5-inch drives. I believe they're either 2 GB or 4 GB. And then over here we basically have the hard drive trays that we needed for our HP server, which we'll show you guys here in a second. So those are all hard drives, originally planned for Chia, but now being repurposed for basically server infrastructure. This just came in from, I took this back and borrowed it to do a review for you guys. I don't even know where to locate this case yet, but we'll be talking about it as soon as I can get it all sorted. Essentially got this from the ProDirect mining, so I'll leave a link down to them. Shout out to them for letting me test it out. They had a couple of them. As you know, they're using the Octo miners, so I wanted to see what this motherboard would do. It does have, or this case, it'll fit 8 GPUs. It has 8 GB of DDR4, probably some sort of low power Intel N series chip. Power supply has no specifications on it, but it does have 21 essentially 6-pin adapters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans, and those fans are all exhausting actually out this direction. And it would really depend on the type of GPUs you put on here if you wanted to reverse these fans. If you reverse these fans, you'd want blower style GPUs that are blowing out the back. I think for this style, if you were going to do in this configuration, basically you would have the open air kind of style GPUs with the 2-fan kind of setup, not a blower style. It's an interesting case, an interesting setup. I'll try to find the information for you guys once I actually get to work on the review video for it. We also have another review that I still need to work on for the H510 Pro BTC motherboard from ASRock. This one in particular runs 6 GPUs, and I have a special case coming from AliExpress to build it in, because the frame that we used over here from A-Wave, who sent this over, by the way, so go check them out, I'll link it down. I do love this frame, but it doesn't fit that motherboard, so it was very odd that they sent me that motherboard with this. I put an ASRock H110 Pro BTC in there because this just doesn't work well in there. It would look bad too. Here's the servers. We have a DL580 that I've stripped all the power supplies out of. I got to order new ones. And this one we will be setting up kind of as a CMC, a central management server, with all the goodies in the front here. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 2.5-inch drives that we'll be able to put in. We have some good CPUs in there. And then over here are Dell PowerEdge 720 XDs, 2 of them, with the 12-core, 24-thread processors, I believe, 2 of them in each one. And we'll be basically filling out all of this, filling out all of that. And right now, Chia was on there, but it'll get repurposed. They'll be put into HA for failover, and we'll talk about that at a later date. Fans dead on this 5700 XT, fans dead on this 5700 XT, extra memory bucket, and I believe is an HP 1200 watt power supply that actually came out of this server. This breakout board will be used for probably the next rig that I'm going to build here shortly. And that wraps it up. So, all right, there we go. So that's pretty much everything with the mining farm for the updated tour right now. It's resulting in anywhere from 5.5 to 6 gigahash a second, depending on the temperature outside. And of course, cards coming in and out of play as I repair them. For the Bitcoin mining, you guys saw that, and we don't have a ton of ASICs right now. Bitcoin's doing about $20 a day on the 98 terahash Koi miner over there, and then, you know, $10 a day between the L3 Plus and the mini Doge miner, and then the rest is just kind of hedge mining, seeing what happens and playing around. I hope you learned something new in this mining farm tour and enjoyed it, because I know it was highly requested. Don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe down below, and I will see you next Tuesday. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button for more, or check out this playlist for more crypto content related topics.